Hello everybody, Necroxis here, and this is the third and final video in the Lorewalker story look at the 5.0 artifact stories. That's a confusing title, but I can't figure out a better way to put it. Okay, let's try. It's the stories that you get when you complete all of the artifacts for the Lorewalkers. Is that better? I don't know. Alright, well, whatever. Let's continue on. The first part of the first video in the series was our allies, as well as the Sorok, who are kind of an oddball, so I put him in there. Second video was our enemies. This video is a little bit more abstract. It's about Shaohao, Liu Lang, and, quote, what is worth fighting for, which is supposed to be one of the main themes of this expansion, and why the Pandaren are introduced. So, let's begin with that story.
Hello. Jade Serpent guide you.
What is the source of your power? Think carefully before you answer. Many adventurers point to their weapons, or their equipment, or to tomes of arcane might. Long ago, when my people were slaves of the Mogul Empire, we were forbidden from carrying any weapon at all. We were not fighters, and no one believed we could fight the Mogul without magic and steel until Kang, the Fist of First Dawn, opened our eyes. One day, the beloved monk issued a challenge to his fellow slaves. "Hit me!" he called out. Surprised, the beleaguered Pandaren slaves tried to strike Kang. One by one, they failed, for he intercepted their blows like a dancer and sidestepped their attacks like a reed in the wind. "Our backs are hardened by the whips of the Mogul," he told them. "Our arms are powerful from building their fortresses. Our minds are sharp from working alongside our enemy. You think the Mogul are stronger? I say we are their strength." The farmers, the bricklayers, the shepherds, the smiths, they all bowed before Kang. "Teach us," they said. "Teach us to fight." And when they rose as warriors. Your voice, your hands, these are the tools of true heroes. Use them well, and you can change the world.
The reason I'm laughing is, in the last video, spoiler alert, I recorded all three of these videos at the same time. In the last video, I posited a question of, I wonder who was the first Pandaren that stood up against the Mogul. And I was explaining why monks came about because of the Pandaren. And I forgot that this one just explains it all, so I guess the guy's name was Kang. I don't know if he's actually the one who stood up first, or if he's just the guy credited for developing the techniques of the monk, but oh well, that's the first one. That's interesting. Supposed to be what's worth fighting for. Just like Lorewalker, or not Lorewalker, who, Chen, he is in the introduction cinematics of this expansion, and his whole thing is he's explaining why the Horde and Alliance's war is stupid, and that family and you know, honor and what have you is more worth fighting for than just land and conflict. So we'll have to see how that plays out in the Siege of Orgrimmar patch, because I actually don't know if any Pandaren are going to be involved other than Chen Stormstout. And he's really not doing it for a honor standpoint. He's doing it because he helped build Orgrimmar with Thrall and Vol'jin and Rexxar. So let's move on.
How does today find you?
Let's do the Ballad of Liu Lang. He is about the turtle as well, the Wandering Isle. And then we'll end with Shaohao.
Tread lightly. When the Sundering ripped apart the continents of Azeroth, we Pandaren thought that the rest of the world had been utterly destroyed. But as the centuries passed, one young explorer decided to see what was out there. His name was Liu Lang, and he set out to discover the world. We celebrate his bravery with statue and song, But If you were actually there, on the beach that very day, well, I'm sure he looked... Oh, how the Pandaren laughed at him. But Liu Lang was more clever than anyone thought. Sea turtles always return to the beach where they were born. And so, despite the mists that envelop our land, he always had a way home. Every few years, he returned, with tales of mysterious cities in the sand, nomadic people living on endless grassy plains, a great empire under the ice, and a magical kingdom gilded in gold. Each time he returned, more and more Pandaren answered Liu Lang's call and joined him on his growing turtle. They were the bravest among us, the explorers, the adventurers. And that is the lesson of Liu Lang, my friend. Everyone always laughs at the explorer. They always laugh until he returns.
That was the turtle. I believe his name is Shen-zin Su or something to that effect. It's the same turtle that Liu Lang used to ride and now is the basis of the Wandering Isle. He is so big, he is literally an island. And I didn't remember that Liu Lang discovered both the Nerub Empire. Well, I'm really mispronouncing that for some reason. I'm very sorry. Quel'Thalas, he discovered them too, as well as the Tauren. Yeah, Nerubian. What am I talking about? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Before I confuse myself some more, let's look at the final one. Has to do with Shaohao.
Greetings.
And like I said, it's definitely going to tie into what happens in the future of Missa Pandaria. I am convinced.
Farewell. Ah, you wish to learn of our last and greatest Emperor Shaohao. Oh, my friend, I do not have the time here to recount all of his adventures, but his actions 10,000 years ago resonate to this very day. We know that he purged his doubts in the Jade Forest, that he cleansed himself of despair in the Krasarang Wilds, that he overcame his fear in the Town Long Steppes, and that he defeated anger, hatred, and violence high in the mountains of Kunlai. This is known, and there are temples to mark these most sacred of places. But I want you to imagine standing in this very valley on the day he returned from his journey. Imagine being here when the gates opened for him. By then, our Emperor was a creature of pure light. No doubts, no fears, no hatred.
Except for one thing.
It is said that all the trees in the Vale blossomed as he entered, and continue to blossom to this day. Would that we could all live like our most sacred Emperor. That we could put aside all our burdens and exist in harmony with the cosmos. That, I believe, was his message to us, before he became one with the land and hid Pandaria away from the terror of the Sundering. Thank you, dear Emperor.
So yeah, there's a few things to talk about that. For those of you who didn't know from the story, that explains the reasons why these specific Shah are where they are at. Like he was explaining, the Shah of Doubt was purged from the Emperor in the Jade Forest, and that is why the Jade Temple was built, and that is why the Shah of Doubt comes about in this area. The same thing with the Shah of Hatred, or not hatred, Shah of Violence. The three that he said were in Kunlai. That's why they're all dealing with them in here. Anger, that's why the world boss is in this zone. Hatred, that's why it becomes a boss in Shadowpan Monastery. And violence, which really isn't touched upon because you don't really need to explain violence. But interestingly enough, the Shah of Fear is from Nizhao Temple, which I didn't know for a long time until I actually sat down and started reading about it. Because for some reason I just assumed it was somewhere here in the Dread Waste and it just never really moved. But that's the story of, there's a quest chain in Nizhao that deals with the Shah of Fear and how it breaks out, and I don't remember the exact NPC's name, but he's freaking out because at this point in the story, most of the other Shahs have already been dealt with. The Shah of Fear has actually not only been not dealt with, but is making things much, much worse, which I explained in the last video of how most of the problems of Pandaria is the Shah of Fear's fault. So, and then the Red Crane dealt with the last one, which was Despair, I believe. I think I got them all. Let's see, it was Doubt, Anger, Hatred, Violence, Fear, and Despair. But, if you paid attention, that was called the 7 Burdens of Shaohao, and they only named 6. So, look for the 7th one to make an appearance in 5.3. I'm going to spoil it, so if you don't want to know, then just turn the video off now. I'll give you a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 7th burden of Shaohao was the burden of pride, which he explains as a ghost or a spirit or something in 5.3. It's not really explained, but his spirit does appear and explains that pride was the only Shah that he did not cleanse from himself. And while all the Pandaren rejoice him for cloaking the island in mist, the Emperor actually said it was a very prideful thing for him to do because he thought that his land was better than all the other ones. And there's my phone. Awesome. Even at 5 in the morning. Anyway, pride's the final burden that he did not banish. And if you note, which I'm probably sure you have by now, there is no Shah of Pride in the game yet. So, look for that to come, probably in 5.4. I don't know. I have no inside knowledge. I'm just assuming. Because the Heart of Yasarj, which is... Okay, Yasarj was the old dead god that had 7 heads. And when it died from the Titans, each one of its heads breathed a dark curse on Pandaria, and each head birthed a Shah. So, with the Heart of Yasarj in 5.3, of course it's going to play a role in 5.4. Some people are thinking maybe it's not just the Shah of Pride, but once the Shah of Pride is dead, that means all 7 Shah have been destroyed. And there is a theory floating out there that perhaps when all of the 7 Shah are gone, Yasaraj comes back. So that would be interesting to see. But we don't know yet. We'll have to take a look when that happens, when that comes out. Which hopefully I will be bringing you. I will bring you all of the 5.4 spoiler stuff on the PTR when it does go up. But until then, my name is Necroxis, and I want to thank you for taking a small series look with me at the Lorewalker stories. Hopefully they add some more in 5.4 because this was one of my favorite parts of this expansion. I mean, this is added in for no other reason than the lore. Like, I can't think of anything else in the game, in any of the expansions, that was added just for the story. This is the first thing. They added in lore objects all over Pandaria, and that is awesome. From somebody who loves the story of a game, that was just fantastic. I don't know how many other ways I could say that. It was amazing. There's one more. But anyway, thanks guys. I will see you for whatever next lore look we look. Lore... Blah, 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 blah. Awesome ending. A+. Thanks, guys. My name is Necroxis. I will see you for the next look at Warcraft's lore, because there's always more lore to explore. Farewell.